Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Get Healthy Tampa Bay podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kerry Reller. Today, I am also the special guest again, and I wanted to do a fun topic that I always find very interesting, and that is basically what's wrong with the nutrition facts label. So I had a fun time this morning going into the grocery store and taking lots of pictures of different products I wanted to check out. I could have been there a lot longer and done a lot more products, but I did not want to stay there forever. So I'm going to select a few, but I am going to share my screen, and some of this might be pretty useful if you are watching on YouTube. So if you can watch this one on YouTube, it might be fun, but you don't necessarily have to. Okay. What's wrong with nutrition labels? So basically, there are dietary guidelines for American, the ones right now from 2020 to 2025 is what they're saying, and then they update them after that, have some certain things. And one is added sugars. So for added sugars, they recommend that less than 10% of calories per day starting at age 2. So, the added sugar should only come from 10% of the calories. And then basically should avoid all added sugar in food and beverages for those younger than 2 years old. Now, I'm not really saying I agree with all these guidelines. I just want you to know what they are. Saturated fat, they say less than 10% of calories per day starting at age 2. And then sodium, less than 2,300 milligrams per day, and even less for kids under 14. We're going to dive into these things individually. And then there's the American Academy of Pediatrics, which I find interesting. They make recommendations to aim for less than 25 grams or 6 teaspoons of added sugar per day. That's for kids 2 years of age and older. And once again, avoiding any of that added sugar for under 2 years age. They recommend serving water and milk instead of soda, sports drinks, sweet tea, sweetened coffee, and fruit drinks. But milk is okay because it has a natural sugar or lactose and is processed in the body differently. It is not processed through the liver. Therefore, it's not leading to fatty liver disease like that fructose that comes in sports drinks and soda and fruit drinks. Milk also provides calcium, protein, vitamin D, which are super important for kids growing. They do recommend watching out for the hidden sources of added sugar, like in processed foods like ketchup, cranberries, salad dressings, baked beans, things like that. They recommend satisfying the kid's sweet tooth with fruit and limiting 100% fruit juice. I don't really agree with these. I don't think they need any juice. And I think juice can be worse than soda, but their recommendations are no more than 4 ounces of 100% juice a day for kids 1 to 3, 4 to 6 ounces for those 4 to 6, and 8 ounces max for those 7 to 14, and don't giving any fruit juice for infants. I'm showing a graphic here that has a different breakdown of different drinks and showing the added sugar and added teaspoons of sugar. And I find this one really interesting and important. It was actually from the USDA.gov. And for sports drinks, it has like 97 calories, but there's 20 grams of added sugar and 5 grams, which is 5 grams, 5 teaspoons. See, I can't even say it right. So I'm trying to point out the fact that they're recommending a number in grams, but on the nutrition label, as you'll see, it's in grams, but we're mostly going by teaspoons, right? So that's really hard to interpret how many teaspoons are in the product that we're going to be looking at. For example, on this same slide, the regular soda is 156 calories with 37 grams of added sugar and then 9 teaspoons of added sugar. So you can see that these things are super high in sugar and should be avoided. And these are for 12-ounce servings as well. Actually, it's funny because the fruit drinks at the bottom have the most added sugar at 59, which is 14 teaspoons, whereas the soda was 37, lemonade was 43, and it's amazing. Avoid the fruit juice. Why do they use added sugar? It can help with preservation, like in bread or things like that. It contribute to the better viscosity, texture, body color, and browning capability for foods. And obviously, it can improve the palatability. And one of those things that they do this added sugar is with yogurt, for example. They suck out all the fat and then they throw in the sugar so that people still like it. That's clearly not helpful. So be careful when you're looking for yogurt in the grocery store because the added sugar content can be a crazy amount to do a low fat product, just to make it more palatable. Basically, they take these products and they undergo extreme testing, and they're looking for this, what we call the bliss point. And the bliss point is the point at which, it's the highest sweet that they can tolerate and still like. And then if it's too much sweet, then they wouldn't like that. So there is such thing as too much, and they kind of get that bliss point is the best amount of sugar that is in the product. And these things have been heavily tested. And there's lots of interesting books that talk about this that I can share with you at another time. But added sugar, it's dangerous. It counts for an average almost extra 270 calories per day, which is more than 13% of the total calories in the US population. So we really need to take a look at our labels to know where it's coming from. Otherwise, you have no idea. This is also from the USDA.gov, and it's a slide that shows the added sugars, where are the most concentrated sources of it. Highest are sugar sweetened beverages at 24%, then dessert and sweet snacks at 19%, coffee and tea, 11%, candy and sugars, 9%, cereals and breakfast bars, 7%, the yogurt and high fat milk, 4%, sandwiches at 7%, and then other sources are 19%. And then it even goes and breaks down the sugar sweetened beverages to soft drinks are about 16%, fruit drinks 5%, and the energy drinks and sports drinks are 2%. And the snacks are breaking it down even further as well. So we also have some secret words for sugar that I like people to pay attention to. Now, they may say added sugar, but then they may not include what that word is. So I have a handout that I give my patients that I am sharing here, and there's tons of secret words for sugar to avoid. And there are, at least 62. Starting with the A's: agave nectar, agave juice. There's Barbados sugar, beet sugar, dextrin, dextrose, icing sugar, honey, high fructose corn syrup, palm sugar, powdered sugar, rice syrup, malt syrup. Like, those are really red flags when you see the word syrup and malt, syrup and sugar. Obviously, coconut sugar, maltose, mannose, fruit juice, sugar beet. Okay, so there's so many words for sugar that you can't just even look at the nutrition facts label. You have to read the ingredients as well. Then there's also the sugar substitutes that you should probably be reading the ingredients for. I'm not really going to go into the ingredients list as much until I show products, but they're really important to pay attention to as well. The artificial substitutes are known as non-nutritive sweeteners. We're talking about like aspartame and things like that. Sucralose is another one. Here's the ones that have been FDA approved. So aspartame, saccharin, sucralose. I haven't heard of a couple of these other ones, but that's like NutraSweet equals Splenda, things like that. And then the other thing I like people to pay attention to is sugar alcohols. So now when they're making things 0 added sugar and they're using a natural sweetener like stevia or something like that, or monk fruit, they're adding these sugar alcohols. And they're kind of like the artificial sweeteners. They're synthetically produced. One of them does occur naturally in our body called erythritol. But the other ones like sorbitol, malitol, xylitol, they are FDA approved. They're considered safe. They recommend no more than 10 to 15 grams. But honestly, these can really bother your stomach and cause flatulence and bloating. So I would be really careful with the sugar alcohols as well, and realize what is the amount that you can actually tolerate. And then I'm not going to talk about the novel sweeteners, but there's some really good alternatives if you still have to have the sweet taste. There's a lot of new research on allulose, which is an interesting natural sugar that's been found, and it actually can have some really exciting properties. And I learned all about that recently at the Metabolic Health Summit in Clearwater, Florida. And maybe I'll do an extra podcast on that one. But for now, those are the natural ones are kind of considered monk fruit, stevia, and allulose and tagatose, which doesn't have much data yet. But these are generally regarded as safe. So back to the sources of added sugar, we kind of went over those and the secret words. So the other things on the nutritional labels include saturated fat. And I'd say be mindful of this, but I'm not having my patients go out and calculate their saturated fat. I would rather them replace those saturated fats with unsaturated fats, like avocado, salmon, olive oil, nuts and seeds and things like that. So I don't really focus on that, except being mindful of it and trying to keep it down and not really calculating it per percent of calories. But for sodium, it's an essential nutrient. You have to have sodium in your body. The DASH diet recommends a lower sodium consumption. They do have some levels recommended depending on the age, like only 1,200 milligrams for 1 to 3 year olds, 1,500 for 4 to 8 year olds, 1,800 for 9 to 13 year olds, and 2,300 max for all other age groups. And if you have high blood pressure, we're probably talking even lower than that. But salt is used also as a preservative. It's a food ingredient. It's used in curing meat, baking, thickening, a flavor enhancer, and it helps retain moisture as well. So you're going to see like that in those minimally processed meats, but also in canned goods. And you can always look for the low sodium option, and you can always add salt later for taste if needed. So always go for the low sodium things that are packaged or canned. So about the labels, so they changed the label. In 2016, the FDA finally updated the requirements for the nutrition facts label on packaged food and drinks. And it was the first update in 20 years. Wow. Talk about needed, right? So manufacturers with 10 million or more in annual sales were required to update their labels by January 1, 2020. And less than 10 million, they had to update it by January 1, 2021. So I really call that 2021 is when the new label really came out, and that, I'll talk about what the changes were. And then the single ingredient sugars, such as honey, maple syrup, and certain cranberry products had a little bit longer to make those changes. And I would say be very careful of that, because it looks like sometimes on the labels that they don't even have sugar in their product, because it's presented as a percent daily value and in a footnote rather than saying, oh, how much added sugar is in this product. So you're not going to see that, labeled out. So be careful with those. So what the new nutrition fact label included was, basically you can see an old one here or a new one if you're looking on the YouTube show. But if you're not, we're focusing on one thing. So the biggest things, they changed like 5 things. Let me just go into that. So the biggest thing was the calories are displayed in a larger, bolder font. They took out the total fat from calories because they thought the type of fat was more important than the total fat from calories. They also changed the serving size information. It's in a large, bold font and updated to reflect the amount that people typically eat and drink. I'll go into more on that in a second. And then they added the added sugar, which is great. And then they put it as a percent daily value, which really should be 0, but whatever. And then they also added vitamin D and potassium to the list and took some other things off. And let's see if I missed anything. Oh, so the actual amounts of the vitamins were declared, and they added a new footnote as well, which is exciting, just because everything is based upon a 2,000 calorie diet. So the added sugars, like I said, is in grams and percent daily value. They must be included on the label, and different labels for single ingredient sugars. And then what is missing from the added sugar, in my opinion, is that sometimes they don't break down the details of that as well. Here, let me go back. So vitamin D, potassium are required on the label now. Calcium and iron continue to be required. Vitamin A and C are no longer required, but they could be on a voluntary basis. I like to pick on the Coke one here on the slide because it has total carbohydrates, which is 39 grams, total sugar, 39 grams, and it includes 39 grams of added sugar, which on here it says 78% of the daily value. So one reason why they were hesitant to do it, because they were afraid that everybody like Coke would be, terrified of them seeing like it's 180% of your daily value of sugar, which it's 78% of the added sugar daily value, but in reality, it's way too much anyway. And then calories from fat, like I said, was removed, and they updated some daily values and did some more, calculations to more reflect on the guidelines that they recommend that is seen on the label. So the percent daily values for things like fiber and sodium and vitamin D were updated. And they updated the serving size. So this one really frustrates me because I actually I knew they did this. And one point was because if you're giving someone a 20-ounce bottle, they're probably going to drink the whole thing and not just, 12 ounces, when previously they said the serving size was 12 ounces, and then they'd have, 2 servings a bottle, and then you had to calculate how much that was. Well, now they just reflect on how much the person actually is going to consume rather than what is recommended as a serving size. So you really got to be careful. They may say something is a 2/3 cup serving size, but that's not really the recommended portion, right? So they give an example on their website for ice cream. So for ice cream, used to be a half a cup of serving size, and now it's 2/3 a cup, just because they said that people would be more likely to eat 2/3 of cup instead of half a cup. It makes no sense. Even I caught myself one time eating ice cream and thinking, oh, well, look, now the serving size is greater and I ate more. How ridiculous is that, right? So I don't like, I mean, I do like, and I don't like at the same time that they updated the serving size. I think it's helpful because now people can realize how much they're actually consuming with, like, if they eat the whole package, and that's usually what it is. You have to know what the content is breaking out the package, but for those things where you didn't really know what the serving size was in the first place, now you think that the serving size is more just because that's what a person would end up eating. And that I definitely don't think is correct. So you really need to know what your own portion sizes are recommended, because the nutrition label is not going to tell you. So now to pick on protein. So protein's always been there. There's no percent daily value. They have a recommended daily allowance of protein at 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, but that's really not to have any deficiencies. That's far too low. It's really just to prevent malnutrition, and people should really be focusing on a more optimal protein intake, which I usually say is about 1 gram of per pound of ideal body weight. And some of this research does come from Gabriella Lyon's book, Forever Strong, which I highly recommend if you have not read it. But basically, it's overall that people are under consuming protein, especially in older age. So there's not really a percent daily value there. It just kind of gives you the amount of protein, boom, 3 grams. That's it. The other thing about protein is proteins are made up of amino acids. Those are the essential building blocks that you need for muscle protein synthesis. And there's, 9 essential amino acids, and they don't break that down. I mean, I think because, they think that people won't understand it. They also think that the label would be too long and big. But in reality, there's different qualities of protein sources. Plant-based protein and animal protein are highly different and include different things. And I'm going to show that in a second. But the other thing is, big commodities like beef and pork can't put on their label things that would say, hey, we have a more quality protein than the plant-based protein, because it's not like illegal or approved. So they can't really market in the same ways. And they have the limited words that they can use on their packaging. Whereas, a branded, I'm trying to think of name one of those, Impossible Beef or something like that, can say, hey, plant-based protein, blah, 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 and they can say, good source of nutrition, but it doesn't say on there, hey, we're lacking in leucine and other vitamins and things like that. So you really got to be careful on that. We're not getting that full disclosure of the type of quality of protein. So you might have to look for that in other sources, the information. So the essential amino acids, phenylalanine, valine, threonine, tryptophan, isoleucine, methionine, histidine, lysine, and leucine. And the most important really is leucine. And I'm showing a picture here from Gabrielle Lyon's Forever Strong book that shows that the foods packed with the 3 key amino acids to build muscle are the methionine and leucine and lysine. And there are some foods that cross over and have all 3, like chicken, beef, pork, turkey, and tuna. And then some just have leucine and lysine, like quinoa, lentils, beans, tempeh, and soy. And then some just have the methionine, Brazil nuts, oats, sunflower seeds, and hemp seeds. So it's really like, if we're looking at a packaging for just quinoa, it's not saying, hey, I'm missing methionine, and, it's not a good as a source of protein as it is as the meat proteins like chicken, beef, pork, turkey, and tuna. So that's one really big limiting factor of the nutrition facts label, in my opinion. So now I have like a million pictures of different products that I took at the store just to take a look at it. So this Taylor Farms Mediterranean Crunch Chopped Kit was one of our favorite salads in our house until I started really paying attention to the labels. So I'm not so concerned about the fat, 10 grams of fat total, but only 2 are saturated. Carbs wasn't too bad, 12 grams. There are little crunchy, like crouton type things in there. And the fiber was 2 grams, not too bad. But the sugar had 6 grams and include 4 grams of added sugar. And I'm pretty sure that's the salad dressing. So I kind of stopped buying this product because I didn't think I would make the salad without the salad dressing, and because I didn't want the added sugar. But I mean, it is, if that's all you can do, it's not the terrible amount of added sugar if that's where you're mostly getting your source, because it has lots and lots of vegetables, vitamins, minerals, and everything like that. And it does have feta cheese. But no, I think if you look in the closer ingredients, it shows in the balsamic vinaigrette, it has vegetable oil instead of olive oil, which is kind of upsetting. And there you can see it has sugar as well. So it does say olive pomace oil lower down in that. But anyway, I stopped buying it because I didn't want the added sugar. And now I'm looking even closer and realizing I made the right decision, which it has the wrong kind of oils. And then here's another one we used to like, Fresh Express chopped kit sunflower crisp. 7 grams of added sugar in this one. Does have lots of good kale, cabbage, leafy lettuce. But once again, the dressing has soybean oil or canola oil and sugar instead of olive oil based. So I kind of stopped buying this one as well. Then we have a Quaker Oats protein instant oatmeal, which I thought was interesting because it says on the package 10 grams of added protein, heart healthy, right? Well, you look at it and then you look at the nutrition facts label and it has 41 grams of carbs, 5 grams of fiber, and 2 grams of soluble fiber. And then it has 13 grams of sugar and 10 grams of added sugar. So that is a lot. And that's for one packet. And you know what? Who eats one packet of oatmeal? Definitely not me. Definitely not my kids. So that you might as well double it. But I guess they get away with saying one packet is a serving size. But first 3 ingredients: whole grain oats, sugar, dried apples. That's where the sugar is coming from. And the other thing I would say about this is some of these kind of things that say high fiber and they're packing the thing with fiber, it's like not real fiber. It's processed fiber. And it's not really as high quality as like vegetables or something like that. So even if it's a high fiber product, be careful because it might actually bother your gut. And then it even says on this nutrition label, it says whole grain, 37 grams or more per serving. So it's focusing on getting your whole grain oats, I guess. And it has the extra protein, but it has whey protein concentrate to get that extra protein. So actually that is usually a pretty decent protein replacement. So I don't know if it floats your boat, great. But otherwise for me, too much sugar. Then I found a lot of granola bars that I'm going to look at. So these are the made good granola bars. In this side of their package, it said, what makes this product made good? It is nut-free, certified organic, non-GMO, contains nutrients from vegetable extracts. It's gluten-free, it's whole grain, it's certified vegan, and it's kosher. So that's all great and all. Still has 6 grams of added sugar, 17 grams of carbohydrate, and only 1 gram of fiber, and only 2 grams of protein. That's pretty pathetic for a granola bar, if you ask me. I feel like the point of a granola bar is to get some extra protein and be almost a food substitute. And the second ingredient is agave syrup, and that was on our secret words of sugar. It also has brown rice syrup lower, cane syrup. I mean, that's 4 or 5 different sugars. So that's the other thing, is that it has to list the ingredients of what is the most of first. But really, you take all those secret words for sugar and add them up, and it's way more than you think. Then we have Z bars. My son seems to like these, and he keeps getting them from other people. But there's a Z bar chocolate chip. It has only 2 grams of protein again, 9 grams of added sugar, only 2 grams of fiber, 24 grams of carbs, 1 gram of saturated fat, not too bad. But once again, tapioca syrup is like the third ingredient. Fig paste, that probably has some sugar, sunflower oils, cane sugar, cane syrup, all sorts of not good products in there. It does have an allergen statement, which is good because it has made on nuts facility, but it does say it's organic and non-GMO and a good source of fiber. Really wouldn't really consider that a good source of fiber. Oh, and 11 grams of whole grains. And then they have a Z-bar protein. So they up the protein by 3 grams. So now it's a 5 gram of protein. Also, it says gluten-free, exclamation point, made with organic oats, non-GMO. And it has 8 grams of added sugar. First ingredient is tapioca syrup, then brown rice flour, then a bunch of more cane sugars and syrups. Really wouldn't recommend that. Also has those refined palm kernel oils, vegetable oils, and things like that. But it does have that added plant pea protein, which is how it's getting to 5 grams of protein. Then I have a Dave's Killer Bread Cocoa Brownie Blitz granola bar thingamabob. So it's USDA organic, non-GMO. Dave's Killer Bread is known to have pretty much lower carbohydrate bread. However, this granola bar, or whatever it is, I can't tell if it's a granola bar or like a fake brownie, but it has 9 grams of added sugar, only 3 grams of protein. It does have some fiber at 6 grams. And second ingredient, brown rice syrup. organic cane sugar. It's all in there. All the secret words for sugar to avoid. Then I got a protein 90-calorie protein bar that has 10 grams of protein. We're getting a little better here. This one, 1 gram of sugar on the side of the box. It also says keto friendly and only 2 grams net carb. So that one's interesting. It has 0 added sugar, but has 4 grams of sugar alcohols. So that's something that may or may not bother you, but it is made with, let's see. Oh, stevia. That's what I figured. So stevia and erythritol are a typical combination. It also has chicory root extract, which I think is a little bit of a sweetener sugar too. And the 10 grams of protein, which is good. And the 10 grams of protein are with a collagen. So that doesn't sound like it actually has proteins that are going to synthesize muscle. It has some whey protein isolate as too, and soy protein isolate. So there's some, but it still has those refined oils. Then we have a Fiber One 70-calorie Weight Watcher 2-point bar, brownie bar, 5 gram net carbs, 2 grams of sugar, has 6 grams of sugar alcohol in this one though. Chicory root extract and erythritol are the first 2 ingredients. And this thing only has 2 grams of protein. That's not so great, but it is, I think, marketing as a brownie and not a protein bar. Lots of vegetable oils and sugar substitutes as well. Then we have the Kind bar, dark chocolate peanut butter, 5 grams of grains. It has 7 grams of added sugar, no sugar alcohol, just something to be aware of, and only 2 grams of protein and lots of sugar for first ingredients. Then I got the Nature's Fig bar, 14 grams of added sugar. Now figs are, considered healthy. They're dried plums, but that's a lot of added sugar. It's fig paste, cane sugar, brown rice syrup, blueberry jam. I mean, there's so many things in here. I would avoid this one. Then they have a Kind Zero bar. And this one I thought was interesting because it had no sugar alcohols, no added sugar, 7 grams of fiber, 14 grams total carb. So really not bad on the net carbs. And it's made with allulose. So that's one of the new sugar products that I was referring to that actually may have some really good GI benefits in the fact it may even increase our GLP-1, hint, hint, all those on Ozempic. It might actually act like that, but just a little bit. So it might induce some satiety after eating it. The only problem I found with this product was the price. It was $9.19 for 5 bars. I was like, oh, I almost bought this and really was curious until I saw the price. I'm like, you know what? I'll just have like some cheese or some nuts and that'll be a good enough protein snack for me. But anyway, it seemed like a good keto option if it's in your budget. It does have some saturated fat at 3.5 grams though. Then there's like a keto granola. This is a ratio keto friendly coconut almond granola. It has 3 sugar alcohols, some protein, some things, but really if you're just sprinkling it on something, that's fine. The serving size is a 1/4 cup, so that's important to note. Otherwise, you're just getting a lot of extra stuff. But this one does have almonds and pumpkin seeds and some coconut, and it has soy protein for the protein part. But then again, it has the erythritol and whey protein. So be careful because whey protein can bother people's stomach too. Then Nature Valley granola protein cranberry almond. So this one has the breakdown of the 2 bars. So a 1/2 cup a serving or an ounce a serving, which I think is good. So snack or a bowl. And it really breaks it down into that for you. But if you can see there's 14 grams of added sugar for a 1/2 cup. And that's a lot. I don't think I would go there. The sugar is the second ingredient and there's vegetable oils. Purely Elizabeth grain-free coconut cashew keto granola. So it's keto, has 5 grams of added sugar, 5 grams of protein, but it says it's non-GMO, gluten-free, vegan, paleo, and keto, made with organic chia and hemp, and no artificial or natural flavor. So it's made with sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, coconut. This one doesn't seem so bad. It actually seems pretty good. I probably would consume that. I didn't look at the price though. But yeah, not too bad. Purely Elizabeth grain-free coconut cashew keto granola. Then here's a cereal our family likes a lot. And I didn't ever like this one too much, but my husband does. Kashi Cinnamon Harvest. So this is 9 grams of added sugar for 31 biscuits or 61 grams. I stopped buying this for a little while. Second ingredient, cane sugar, but otherwise there's not too much in this product. So that's pretty good, meaning the ingredients list is like 4 or 5 things. And I like that. That means you're not getting some weird stuff, but it does have that added sugar. Catalina Crunch Keto Friendly Cinnamon Toast. We've tried this. They sell it at Costco. This one has no added sugar. It's made with pea protein, flour, chicory root fiber, tapioca flour. It does have sunflower oil or coconut oil. Has 11 grams of protein, and that's for half a cup. So not a bad one. We do give it to our kids. Puffin cinnamon, the kids like this one too. Has 7 grams of added sugar, pretty good amount of fiber, 6 grams, but still tons of carb. But not too many ingredients in this either. I do like this Puffins brand, and I do let my kids have this. Wheaties, just to see what the regular old cereals have. They have it broken down with a cup and 2 different portion sizes, and 5 grams of added sugar, which doesn't seem to be too high, especially for these older cereals that have been around forever. And it doesn't have too many ingredients either, so it's not too bad. It does have sugar though, but not bad. And they broke down all the different vitamins and minerals included in it, which is nice. Life Cinnamon. I used to love this cereal. Definitely not good. 10 grams of added sugar, and that's for a whole cup, which is good because that's more relevant to what a person might consume instead of half cup or whatever. But there's still a lot of sugar in that one, so beware. Then I just show a picture of all the marketing to kids, which is like Kit Kat cereal, Reese's Puffs cereal, Cocoa Puffs. It's just crazy, including Lucky Charms. So Kix, this one only has 4 grams of added sugar and pretty good serving, 1.5 cups. So I do sometimes buy this and let the kids eat it. Sugar is the 3rd and 4th ingredient, but it still seems to be a little bit better than some other cereals if you're going to let your kids eat cereal. Multigrain Cheerios always sounds like it's healthier. Still 8 grams of added sugar. Protein is only 3 grams. That's for a pretty good size, 1 1/3 cup. And then the regular Cheerios, though, only has 1 gram added sugar, 2 sugars. So it's a little bit less. And I think that's for 1.5 cups. So it's, I think, even more. So just beware. The multigrain doesn't really mean it's healthier in this case. Bran Flakes from Publix, 6 grams of added sugar. Yeah. Then we go into peanut butter. I just want to make a comment about the added sugars. And that is, you really want to keep it to a minimum here. So I'm not going to go into all these, but peanut butter, Jiffy has a bunch of sugar in it. You don't really need the added sugar. It tastes fine without it. The regular Greenwise crunchy peanut butter has only sea salt and peanuts and is plenty good. I also have some kids snacks. Just be mindful of the carbohydrate intake because guess what? The carbohydrates are all broken down into sugar in the same way anyway. They had a product there that was like Goody Girl mint cookies trying to replace Girl Scout cookies. So I took a picture of that. It has 13 grams of added sugar, but it's for 4 cookies. And then this one product, whole fruit bars, which I always used to think was healthy. They had 70 calories per bar, but it has 16 grams of added sugar. What? I had no idea. I thought it was just strawberries frozen, but nope, sugar. Be careful. Read the labels. Annie's Bunny organic things, 10 grams of added sugar in the snack pouch. So what's wrong with the nutrition label? No % daily value of total sugar. It doesn't break sugar down into teaspoons of sugar, which I think is kind of how we speak in the labels in grams. I have a way to calculate it if you need to work with me or learn it. So let me know. And then those higher end sources of protein aren't spelled out what's in them. We don't know what the amino acid breakdown is. I know that might be advanced, but it is important to know you're getting a quality protein product. And the serving sizes that are new make it seem like it's a normal portion, but that's not true. You really need to measure out portions what is appropriate, right? So be careful with that. And then I saw that the USDA on their website is really recommending seed oils, which are highly refined and processed. Now they are recommended over butter, which has saturated fat. So I see what they're saying, but honestly, just use olive oil or avocado oil or extra virgin olive oil and avocado oil, and you'll be okay. So if you have any questions or anything, please let me know because I definitely have lots of good information on this topic to share with you. I didn't really go into the labeling of the product, mostly just stuck to the nutrition facts. And I did have a lot more to say, but I think this is long enough already. Anyway, I hope you found this valuable. Please read the labels, read the ingredients. I didn't go too much into detail on dyes and things like that, but the sugar is kind of what I was focusing on here, that we have way too much added sugar in our diet and we can get rid of some of that. So I hope you'd enjoy this. Stay tuned for next week. And if you're looking for a primary care doctor in Clearwater or Palm Harbor, Florida, please call us 727-446-1097. Have a good one. Bye.